Alright, video title Deep State Exposed, if I remember to name it this. Anyways. Um, People conspirarize or politicize finding ghosts in the shadows, trying to demonize what they can't demonize by calling it the Deep State. The Deep State is, or the Illuminati, or Hillary's Kill Squads, or whatever the fuck you want to say. Um, People have always thought about like trying to expose them, but they never actually can because the targets in which they identify are not actually the deep state itself. People say that the CIA is in control of the government, the military is in control of the government, the X, Y, and Z is in control of the government. Of course they're in control of the government. They are part of the government. They are assets, facilities. They are agencies of the government. In a sense, they do control because they are controlled by. Often people say you can't politicize something that's inherently political because it is within the realm of politics. These are things that one has to question why. I think I found the deep state. The deep state is not a government agency. The deep state is not a hidden cabal in the government itself. No, the deep state is the people who fight for the Republican Party without getting paid for it. The people who try to do these soft ends to convince people like all those talking points that the Nazis have about the JQ or anti-Muslim or anti-immigrant hate speech. They always reflect Republican talking points. When it comes to like this guy talking about abortion, he wants to make it a moral debate. He's a leftist, or so he says. But is he? That's a question. Because I doubt a leftist would try to make the arguments he was making. Leftists generally agree that we don't know enough about abortion to make an argument. They agree with what the experts agree. Not because they understand it, but because they understand that they don't understand it. They agree with the experts because they understand that they themselves do not understand abortion. So they agree with the experts because they expect the experts who are taught, educated, experienced to know a thing about it. But then it goes to beg the question, why the moral debate? Everything has some form of physics. And I think Destiny put it best. Does a virus have consciousness? Is it alive? When it can't think, it just does. It's like the question, is an engine alive? When it can't think, it just does. Follows mechanics that it's designed and built off of. Cause and effect built on its form. These things are not intelligent. A PC is not intelligent. It is a clock of impulses and mathematical equations, complex in its sense, but is completely incapable of thinking in the sense that it can program itself or evolve. It has to be evolved by additional programming. But the fact that they think that it's a moral equivalent, it's not a moral equivalent. It is a question of timeline, gestation. Obviously, a fetus, before it is given form, is nothing but cells. Unless one would say an egg in itself is a form of consciousness, or a sperm, for that matter. It's not. These are not philosophical questions. These are biological ones, designed to serve a function: measuring, documentation, translation, education, teaching people to understand things beyond themselves, or understand themselves at some point. Teaching people a multi-cell organism is not alive because it has cells. It has to do with the ability to develop its own purpose. I believe in a moral equation that the purpose of life is to make one's purpose. Find something throughout your life and answer the call of duty. Granted, what that call transcribes, knowing when and when not to answer, is a whole different philosophical question in itself. But the ability to calculate philosophy, the ability to gain ridges in our brains through education and experience, the ability to move our hands with the impulses of energy circulating through our muscles. Our muscles are not alive. They're not a conscious being. We can amputate them, we can modify them, we can hurt them, but they're just cells. Human beings in itself would be more about the soul, the energy that courses through our nervous system, that gives existence of the individual. But those are philosophical decisions, calculations on distinctions, many distinctions from just a simple multi-organism, unthinking machine. It is just a point of reference of when a multi-cell organism becomes a person. The point of transition. It is not a matter of philosophy. It is a matter of development, biological development. And of course, those things can be measured. Science can dictate when a celled organism becomes alive. So it's not a philosophical argument, it's a scientific one. And then it becomes a question, is it murder? Well, murder would mean killing something that's alive, which means you can't kill what's not alive. Therefore, at the point in which science dictates something is alive means it is not murder until it is at that point in which it is alive. But then it gets a question, these people they don't know this. They don't transcribe to know or understand this. Instead, they try to abandon the science altogether. Science can't tell us what must be done, but science can tell us what must be done. The troubleshooting equations on a computer will tell us what needs to be done to fix it. Understanding the gestation and understanding we don't want to be murderers tells us if something is beyond a point of gestation, we should not end it because it is a person. And if science tells us that the fetus becomes a threat to the mother's life, it tells us that we should end it because neither will be born and both will die. Either both will die or one dies. These things are not philosophical questions. They are just a matter of, can you live with what the science tells you you must do? Can you live doing what must be done? That is the question. But that is a matter of philosophy. But what must be done can be dictated through science. So it begs the question again, that I go back to the deep state. Why push the moral question? Because they don't want to discuss the morals. They want you to think that it's wrong. They want to utilize philosophy as a distraction. But why? We know why. Because the Republican Party are traditionalists. They believe abortion is murder. Right wing believe abortion is murder, so they want to take away women's rights to abortion. Heartbeat bill and all that stuff. It also comes as a matter of a war scenario. To fight and to keep power against the people for control of government. By attacking the other party, the Democrats, calling them murderers of children. Like having the ability to have abortions means that they are pro-murder. It's a philosophical attack against a person's rights by using the weakness of what a person doesn't understand in a distraction. As I say, the devil is the king of lies. It goes to ask the question, why fight this fight? Why go and push this thing like transgendered people? Why accuse them of being enemies? Why accuse them of being against themselves when they want to change? Why push this philosophical discussion of how it's wrong when we can tell through the biology that they understand that it's wrong? The biology being is the inherent discomfort of one's current position, which is more a matter of self. There is a distinction within the human brain that distinguishes them. Like serial killers, for the matter, or psychopaths. That's the word I'm looking for. You can tell by watching it in MRI. Psychopaths have a distinct thought pattern. These things are not a matter of something that's wrong in the sense of how they accept themselves. This is a matter of the wiring in their brain. This is a matter of whether or not it is more destructive to keep them as they are born or letting them transition. I say let them transition. Accept them for what they want to be identified as. It does no wrong, no harm to either them or anybody else. It helps them. We understand even the science tells us this. But then they fight. They say that they're mentally ill. The right wing, they fight saying it's that how can we accept them if they can't accept themselves? Whether or not you think that they can accept themselves does not give license to not accept them for who they are. But yet they peddle this. Why? That is the deep state. It isn't some government agency. That is the shadow government. It's not a government cabal of any kind. No. It's these right-wingers. It's these people that fight and peddle these conspiracies and a hate and the outright lies, like the coronavirus response time. From what we understand, the coronavirus, we knew about the outbreak happening back in December. Trump waited for way longer than any other country, saying it was a democratic hoax, saying it was going to vanish miraculously. It was no big deal, just like the flu, overhyping it. We understand what he's doing. He's trying to attack the Democratic Party because he wants to protect his re-election prospects. It's about selfishness. He wants to be considered a savior, utilizing the same things. But why does his people try so hard to defend him? Why sacrifice your credibility? Why reduce yourselves to this proxy when all you are just lying for the sake of lifting up somebody else who can't lift himself up on his own merits? I heard somebody talking about how the Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of family values. But that's not at all what the Democrats promote themselves as. That's never been anything that they promote themselves as. Why peddle it? Why tell it? Why go and spread this lie? They're not getting paid for it. He's not getting a reward for it. Why do it? Why go and say that Trump blocked why go and say that Democrats called Trump racist for blocking travel from China? People didn't call Trump racist for blocking travel from China. People thought it was too little too late. People called him racist for calling it a Chinese virus. Why peddle the lie? Why fight so hard to protect a fraud? Why lie? Why bend over backwards for this guy? Why do these like soft ends about race and IQ? You guys on the right are so ashamed of yourselves that you can't outright say it. You have to manipulate things. Somebody saying, "Oh, the Democrats only want the popular vote because they always win it." Like, yes, because the Democrats earn it. If the Republican Party would actually lead and stop doing all this hate and fear, stop being such bigots, then they wouldn't have to rely so much on rigging or voter ID, voter suppression laws. And the whole argument in itself is ridiculous, because to say that, oh, Democrats only want popular vote because they always win it, is like saying that just because they lead better doesn't mean they should lead. That makes no sense. Just because the people want them, that doesn't mean they should? Why? People on the right, they talk about how we want freedom and stuff, but then they defend the Electoral College, saying that it's to protect from the tyranny of California. But that wouldn't make any sense, because California isn't making decisions for Kentucky. California isn't making decisions for anybody else. No. They're just part of the presidential vote. Everybody is. It makes no sense, but why peddle it? Why peddle the whole Democrats are racist because back in the 1800s the KKK was Democratic? Why lie? Why go so far back as the 1800s or whatnot to try and justify or muddy the waters of what's now? We know the KKK was full-on support for Trump, still are as far as I'm aware. They're full-on Republican people because they love religious Sharia law. They love to religiously discriminate against other people. They believe in white superiority and all that good stuff. So, why peddle the lie? I hear these people say Hillary was is, or Hillary is another Obama. Obama was a failed president. But then we find out he had an epidemic response team that Trump got rid of. We find out about things like the lawsuits that Obama won against China related to the world trade. We find out things like the policies that was preventing people from being evicted from their lands and then forced into bankruptcy because they couldn't pay the rents on time, but were stuck in a contract to pay the rents anyways while forced to live in another home paying two rents. These people, like going back to the whole 2016 election, they try to say Hillary was a horrible candidate. Trump was worse. I know why they say it. They want to say we were right to pick Trump because he was the better, but he wasn't. They say she was easily hateable. Obviously not. She won the popular vote. Even after all the lies about Pizzagate and the lies about Benghazi and email scandal and the whole hyperventilation of super predators, the disinformation accusing her of not having policies, just using the woman card, the whole hidden illness things. These people, or the Russian interference, these people, she was not hateable to the extent where they could just let her fail. They had to make people hate her by lying. They pivoted all the time, refusing to talk about anything bad about Trump, saying they couldn't discuss it, but then at the same time they could go around lying about Trump's successes in industry. The guy paid people to come to his rallies, and yet they would accuse other people of doing the same, while completely ignoring and refusing to admit and refusing to let other people talk about how he paid people. Obviously, she wasn't so easily hated, but yet now, even to this very day, we hear people influenced and giving in to this lie. And then they say that, oh, like Warren is another Hillary. That's just having no substance. That's like saying that, oh, hate Hillary and hate Warren like you hate Hillary because of reasons. But what reasons? Why peddle this if you cannot find a actual thing to hate these people or dislike them? Why peddle that lie? Then we have the tribalist issue. People say it's Bernie or bust. Forfeiting things to the Republican Party because Bernie didn't win. That doesn't sound like a very leftist thing to me. It becomes an argument of strength. Strength is a matter of perception. But it's not about strength. It's about policy. But then they ignored policy. They ignore the whole hostilities of the Republican Party. Trump was not strong in any of his policies. He refused to discuss his policies. The guy just kept saying, I was the best, I know best, and all that stuff. People peddle things like Obama didn't listen to the generals because he refused to adhere to just a few. And then we have this guy who's Trump, who says he knows more than the generals, knows more than the experts. But they don't let you talk about that. They just want you to focus on Obama or Hillary being another Obama who didn't listen to the generals. They say that Obama was unpatriotic because he didn't salute a few times. While we have a guy who fires people who disagree with him, even escorts Vidman for following protocol. Fires him for following protocol. The guy was subpoenaed. These are not, like this guy, Trump goes around and he's constantly ripping on the FBI, ripping on our government, saying they're partisan, calling them the deep state and all that shit. How can you people peddle this shit? nothing to gain and everything to lose. That is the deep state. That is the Illuminati. That is the that is where the cabal is. If you want to fight the deep state, fight without compromise against these fascists, these people who argue about abortions being murder, argue against these people who pretend like they know everything and know nothing. Fight these people who peddle false conspiracies. Fight people like Alex Jones, who says Hillary and Obama smell of sulfur. Fight these people who say Trump was appointed by God. These people are the deep state. These people are not for America. The United States Constitution is a chain of command. The chain of command allows for individual state-level constitutions that must adhere to the federal constitution. And yet we hear people say that the Constitution is only states' rights. Only state level. The point is the United States of America, in its title, clear as day, United States, under the Constitution. The Constitution is the top authority. Not Trump. Not the Republican Party. Not the Democratic Party. The Constitution. And yet we have Republicans wiping their ass with it, saying that it's okay to break the law if it helps to win an election. People saying that, yeah, Trump did was a prig pro quo, but it's not impeachable. Yes, it is impeachable. People who say that we need to out the whistleblower when they're federally protected. These people are slaves to the deep state. These people are the cabal. These people who sacrifice all their credibility for just Trump to wipe his ass when he shits the bed, while they try to pin the smell on the Democrats. The what about Trump or what about Obama thing. It's the Obama problem, or Hillary's kill squad, or the covering for Bill Clinton's rape when it's never been proven. The whole Epstein didn't kill himself meme. We all know Epstein didn't kill himself. Nobody contests that. The only reason that it's a meme is because people think that they want to push this and peddle this conspiracy that it was Hillary's kill squad. But nobody buys that. Nobody buys that Hillary was behind this. The evidence that was reported shows the same thing, like the voter suppression thing, where Trump did the whole investigation into voter fraud. They found nothing, and he buried it to save his own ass. They're the deep state. This is the cabal. This is a war against the people. If you want to learn more, listen to your media. You might not agree with them. You might think that they're biased. But being biased just means that they promote each side's best. Don't let one side promote the best of theirs and then shit on the other without listening to both sides. And you make your own enlightened judgment, story by story, equation by equation, not by one time, not by one media outlet, not by Trump alone, not by the Republican Party alone. Keep an eye out for these soft ins that people do. If you want to know what it's like to listen to a soft in, I suggest you listen to Vaush and Destiny. They debate right wingers a lot, and they get to hear things like identitarians, constitutionalists, different phrases for different things. Destiny, I believe, I believe he is rather mentally exhausted and has confused and been purposely confused by the right wing on what the leftists are. He's been attacked by right wingers pretending to be leftists, so he thinks leftists are just as bad. Fact of the matter is, a lot of the people just don't know a lot of things about economy or a lot of things in general, history, engineering, flight, being a athlete, swimmer, take your poison. It basically, there's too much information for one person to know. But the point is that you debate them because if somebody tries to lead you down the wrong path, you at least have somebody who can keep you on the narrow way. Yet, what we find is that a lot of people are angry because a lot of people don't know economics, don't know history. Don't fault them for it. Don't be angry at the left because the left doesn't know history perfectly. It just means that the people you debated don't know history perfectly, which is completely human. I understand people who debate right-wingers a lot have to know a lot because they throw as much as they can. Like, for instance, somebody arguing that socialism fails because the Italy medical system is overwhelmed with corona victims. But that's not a failure of socialism, that's a success of socialism. Because that means people are using the assets. They have access to Medicare, they have access to medical coverage, they're getting the support that they need. Unlike our government that's currently still reaching that point, but not there yet, because people don't have access to health care. Our capitalist system is failing its people. But yet somebody, LCTR, debates to Destiny saying that socialism fails because too many people have access to these things. What does he gain? What is his purpose for it? Is it just to own the libs, his fragile ego? These guys are capitalist wet dreams. They don't even have to hire people. They get these free soldiers out in the battlefield to do things for them. All for what? They hurt their fellow man. They hurt their people. They create conflict and anger. They create conflict and war. For what cause? To promote your party? Your party doesn't give two shits about you. To promote your candidate? Why promote him when you can't even defend him? Somebody's like, I voted for Trump because Hillary was just horrible. How was she horrible? People tell me. She's too close to Wall Street. What about Trump? He had Wall Street executives in his campaign, even hired a bunch when he was inaugurated. It's okay if Trump does it. Why? Why the bias? When they did the whole zero tolerance thing. They praised it as a success of the Trump administration. They called Obama weak on illegal immigration, despite the fact he was known to have the most deportations. And yet they try to blame it on Obama for the kids in cages, even though they themselves said that he was weak on immigration. Even though they themselves praised the kidnapping of kids as a zero tolerance policy. And then they tried to bury it. Why? Why defend this guy when you can't even stand up for the things that he does? Why sell your soul to the devil? All you're getting is fool's gold. Not even that. This whole alpha shit trying to divide America between the alphas and betas. This whole ego shit. Why does it have to be so much about oneself? Elevating oneself above the others? Why not just coexist? Why not just accept each other for the way they are? Why may it be so? You guys say you want to defend people from being victims. But are they being victims? Are they victims of the left or are they victims of the right? Because from what I can tell, the right is the one that wants to take away women's rights to work. The ones that peddle conspiracies about the JQ, trying to divide people into factions, completely bred into this loyalty of to a certain government. Why lie so much about the Nazis or conspiracies of leftists wanting to take away your guns just like the Nazis did, when it's the right that literally have Nazis in their party, that literally present and peddle Nazi conspiracy theories? Why talk about the left wanting to take away people's rights when we literally have people peddling voter ID and voter suppression laws? The whole stop and frisk thing, asset forfeiture. Those are just the things I can think of the top of my head. Everything I've listed is things I can think of the top of my head. Why peddle these conspiracies? Why is it so hard for you guys to stand for what you believe in? Why say that it's all about defending rights when the right does literally nothing to defend anybody's rights? They want to take away money they want to make it harder for people to get Social Security, claiming that as rampant fraud without actually proving it. In fact, it's been disproven. Why lie about the phantom earpiece? Why lie about Bill Clinton's supposed rape victims? Why lie about Hillary's kill squads? If you can stand on your own merits, why is it so hard for you to stand at all? People say, look for yourself and how the Comey thing. Comey betrayed American people by talking about how the investigation to Hillary's emails, but without ever telling people about the investigation to Trump. It did play a part. It wasn't the only part, but it was still a part. I remember the praise that Trump gave Comey, and yet it didn't stop him from betraying Comey and firing him later on. Even now, they want to peddle a conspiracy about Biden. They had nothing. 4 years to investigate and only now doing it. Why peddle the lie if you can stand on your own? That is what the deep state is. That is where the cabal, the Illuminati exists. People like Alex Jones. People like Ben Shapiro. Every anti-trans rights person, every person peddling the JQ, every person peddling the QAnon, they are part of the cabal, the deep state. Might not know it, but they're not getting paid. Talking about how the numbers of the coronavirus are being inflated to make Trump look bad. Don't let them win in the 2020. If you want to fight the deep state, look a little harder and listen closely.